Hi, this is Thaneshwar. I'm the founder of Ayantra Business Solutions Private Limited, and along with me is Dr. Jagdish. So he's an ENT surgeon in Fortis Hospital. He's a founder, he's an innovator, and he has more than 20 innovations under his belt. So there are very few, like even we don't enter into any of the medical colleges because we think it's a medical college, so there won't be any innovators, right? Because they're going to be doctors. Just go, they would want to finish their degree and then they would want to practice.
Yeah.
And there's nothing much what they would do when it comes to innovation.
Correct.
So, and then as we see, most of the innovations happen and we wait for all the missionaries to come from abroad. So, what do you think on that? Like, how important it is for a doctor to become an innovator?
No, I think it is a key point. I think any country which is developing high quality medical device innovations are having doctors involved, and it makes sense. I mean, with medical technology, if you remove the medical from it, the technologies which are going to come out are not going to be very meaningful. And I think that is also a reflection to the kind of technologies that are coming out nowadays. As you can see, if a doctor is not involved, a doctor in whichever field, surgical, non-surgical, will have very deep insights about some of the gaps, pain points, and issues that they face. And many doctors, it's not like they don't innovate, they do, but they do it in very, very small capsules. Like they do it in their own. They find a surgical vendor they've seen in some conference. They will say, "Yeah, isko thoda sa, just make it like this." They will use it. Their students will use it. Maybe a small circle around them will use it, but they are usually unable to get it a way that a commercial business would bring a product out, which has got a lot of branding, marketing, and all of that. And I've talked to a lot of doctor innovators who undermine the value of branding and marketing. They feel that if we have a good device, I have a prototype, or I have a something functional, it should spread entirely by word of mouth. But the market does not work that way. There is, certain after sales service. There is certain sales, marketing. There is a lot of other things that are involved, distributors. So that business sense is usually neither we are trained in it, and we usually learn it the hard way. And engineers, business graduates, they may have a little bit more understanding about how tech is developed. But when they don't have a medical person in their team, they end up making what they think is limited to their knowledge. Mostly you will see supportive things. Let's do doctor-patient connecting. Let's do some SaaS model. Let us do some diagnostic. Let us do some, enablement. Or someone died in, with young person with heart attack died. So let's do some heart screening. So everything will be either based out of personal experience or something that they read or happen around them. Very hard to get a very granular solution, which, has a lot of science into it, a lot of depth into it, and which is solving something which can impact many. And I think while there's good to have these kind of schools, innovation schools, these centers of excellences in engineering colleges, I think there has to be strong partnerships with medical colleges. And I think some IITs are doing that. IIT Kharagpur is, I think, one of those IITs which has a medical college in their campus. IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi also very closely partner with their premier hospitals, Apex institutes. So similarly, I think there has to be some program which allows cross learning, because innovation is not a single department domain. So just purely a doctor inventing will also not be able to develop something that can go very far. And similarly, exclusively just engineers doing it also may not. So my thought is that there has to be this integration, and I think that is already beginning to happen, but I think that needs to happen more formal manner.
Because that's what I always believe. Innovation cannot have in isolation.
Correct.
And then as we spoke, there are three aspects, right? So one, medical.
Yes.
One is engineering, the tech part, and someone from the business sense. Because all three has to integrate together.
Yeah.
Only then I think that's something which we are also trying to figure out, where we would want to create an ecosystem where we try to integrate all engineering colleges with management. And we have been missing on the medical part, but after meeting you, I think that's something which we have to work on, how we can connect with the medical colleges as well.
Absolutely.
So now, when it comes to identifying the problem, right? So that's one of the core things, right? Once you identify a problem, that's the half
Correct.
innovation kind of a thing where you try to find solution. So because most of the times we try to assume problems, we don't identify, we assume problems. Okay, there can be a problem, so we try to find solution. That's where we don't have product market fit, and then that's the reason why most of the startups fail as well. So what you think, how being a doctor can try to find a good idea which can actually go into become a commercialized product?
Yeah, see, with anything, if anybody is interested in developing a medical technology or any healthcare innovation, medical knowledge is not an easily understandable knowledge. The medical knowledge is a mix of not only very intense theoretical aspects, a lot of complex words, but also a lot of complex mechanisms of way our body works. I'm sure even when we were studying MBBS, when we realized, oh, this is how this works, we would have never guessed. And now that we have our technologies, if we show somebody their eardrum, they would have never thought, oh, this is what it looks like. Our knowledge is very limited to what we see in our movies or TV or our discussions or whatever is there in our very little internet work. So it is very hard for someone who does not have that depth of understanding to develop something with technical depth. And what I recommend is for any engineer, designer or business person interested to work in the healthcare space has to at least shortlist 2 or 3 healthcare domains which is of their personal or private, like their priority experience. Like for example, somebody will have something like very rarely you will be like, I'll work on anything, right? Then you just pick one. But some people say, I want to work in emergency care, or I want to work in maternal and child health care, or I want to do something only in the orthopedic space, or I have elderly grandparents, I want to do something for the older population, geriatric space. Pick 1 or 2 spaces and then try to get as much exposure in that space for at least a couple of months. There are a lot of formal ways in medical colleges. I recommend doing this in medical colleges because there is a formal process to bring in outsiders as student observers or as researchers, where you can, you have a department. You go to the student section, say, I want to observe an orthopedic department for 2 months. So there is a letter, there is an application, then one HOD will approve, there is a fee. You go in rather than waiting outside somebody's OPD and the guy is busy. He's like, yeah, first of all, I had a long day. Then I meet medical reps and then you are asking me, is this a good idea? Not a very nice setting to give good feedback. But if you're part of that as an observer, you're part of the department, you're part of the team as a researcher or observer, then you are integral. Then you will have a lot of time with the team. You will see all the work, you will see all the OPDs, you will see the procedures, surgeries, and in that you will also see things that are probably not ideal. And that is where the problems come from. You might say that, okay, a patient was supposed to stay in the hospital for 2 days, but because of a complication stayed for 5 days. Okay, that's a 3 days extended stay and morbidity for the patient, complication. So much to understand why that happened. Is it a one-off? Is it happening many times? Is it related to skill? Is it related to certain technology? And then those topics make for good discussions with the doctors and the treating team. And that is where you get insights. And if you do like this for 50, 60 problems over 2-3 months, you will very well know that these are the 2-3 top areas in this particular field that really need solving. They have high volume. They cause a lot of problem to patients. And because of XYZ reasons, we are not able to solve this. And that is a good starting point. And by then you would have built such a rapport with these doctors that they eventually become a part of you in some way. And for doctors, I always think the best way is that they, remain in their clinical field, but contribute either as co-founders or consultants or advisors, some shareholding or some contract, so that they can keep both their fields alive, because you need that access to that field when your technology develops for trials, for validation, for testing. So I think that kind of way then makes a nice bed to start these innovations, form a company, and then take it forward. And since it is rooted in science, that community will accept it also very quickly. They will not question why you made this. They'll be like, oh, how did you come to know this is a problem we face? Oh, that doctor is involved. It's come from our community. Those kind of things happen. And that's what has helped me also with many of my technologies.
And see, nowadays, the major problem is the trust issue.
Yeah.
Because as a patient, I always believe that doctor is there to just make money. right? Because you not just me, like everybody, whenever doctor tell that there is something which is very serious and you have to get admitted right away or you have to get some operation done, so we might always think that he's just doing it
Do we really need
because
it or
yeah,
not?
do we really need? So that's where, as you said, we have to have second, third, fourth opinion till we get an opinion from a doctor. Okay, now operation is not required, right? So we'd want to meet as many doctors as possible. So, if the kind of device you already have, that can show the patient,
Yes.
okay, what is the problem? So then they might not want to go and meet anyone else. So that's the kind of trust which is built.
Absolutely.
So how do you think, how important is this technology for to have that kind of see, we used to trust doctors, but for some reasons things didn't work out. So now to get back that same trust,
Yes.
how will this help?
See, that is a very valid, issue that we are facing nowadays. See, the reason why it's called medical practice is because there is no guarantee to anything. A patient undergoing a seemingly very harmless procedure can have a very fatal outcome. And somebody who is going through a very, very dangerous procedure can also survive in a very good outcome. It is a lot of factors that play a role in the care of or recovery of any patient, including the patient's own body, the level of the disease, and the skills of the doctor, as well as the resources and support of the hospital. So, for that reason, what happens is there have been outcomes which are not good. Like we all travel in aeroplanes. We all know that there have also been crashes. But, that does not deter us, right? We still think that, okay, there are certain improvements being made. And similarly, in healthcare also improvements are made. But what happens is then some people with bad experiences then, become very negative towards certain things. And I'm not saying that some doctors don't take advantage. Of course, there is some unethicalness and crime in any field. I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying that they are there. But technology has to bridge these kind of gaps. Like, for example, what we have developed, one of the reasons why we have developed this device which can see the ear, nose and throat remotely is because ENT is not easily understood by people. And if we look inside and tell you have this, people don't feel convinced because they may be facing something different symptoms and it may not be matching with what the doctor is seeing. But when you yourself are able to see, and every patient, every human being has a right to know what they are going through. That is how investigations, like even if it is just taking a blood and looking at reports, which is black and white printed paper, any lab can print anything. But still, when you see a report, this is normal, you have a little bit of sense. ECG, if you see the graph, this thing. If you get an X-ray, oh, my bone is broken, you can see the broken bone. It gives you certain things. In a clinical examination, it is usually the say of the doctor. And that's where these visual tools help to bridge that particular gap. If I show a drum as a hole, and if the patient sees there's a hole in the drum, then they know there is a hole in the drum. There's no need for a second opinion. So the compliance will improve. And many times it is not about a doctor not able to treat well. If the patient is not convinced, they will not take the treatment and they will not improve. That compliance is very important for the patient to understand that what the doctor is saying is really happening. And they need to be convinced. Many doctors sometimes feel that I have studied for so many years, I don't need to explain this to you, take my word for it. Many patients do take their word for it, but some want an explanation. And these visual tools give every patient a very transparent understanding of what their body is going through. So then they can adhere to the treatment. And if they don't want to adhere to the treatment, they have an informed decision to do so. That is what.
Okay. Now, being AI everywhere, right? And then Google Doctors. So what do you think will be the future like for doctors? Like people would depend on AI to give suggestions, or will it decrease the importance of doctor, or because of this technology, right? Because now you have a tool which can take an image or take a video, and tomorrow we're going to have some AI mechanism which can go through these images and predict or suggest the medication. So what do you think the importance of doctor? Will it still be relevant, or will technology take over?
Primary role of a doctor is treatment. And I doubt AI will be able to perform treatment. However, AI, I think, has a very good role in picking up things early. predicting things, identifying things, which I think is welcoming for doctors, because we all know that there is a large base of patients who require care and they never reach. And with technology like AI, which is able to pick conditions early, will actually funnel more patients to the doctors at a more earlier stage, where we can offer better care, better reversal of the disease. And I think that is a good thing. I don't think the AI can, perform therapeutic surgeries or prescribe medications, or whether the patients will be able to trust something like that. If you look at technology, even in the field of aerospace and airlines, there is maximum technology advancement, but you will not sit in a flight without pilots. Similarly, I don't think anybody is going to get operated without a human who has skill and understanding, who is behind, even if it's a robot, is behind that, robotic tool, or is operating the, machinery. So I think a lot of this is only going to advance the onset at which patients come to doctors, which I think is a good thing, because it allows us to treat them more better in a more comprehensive way much earlier. And also it is also driving more patients to doctors, which is the way it should be, because there are always family members who will say, wait for it, don't jump into it, you go there to the hospital and then they will give you all sorts of medications. Why are you going there? Now when the AI is picking something, you want that reassurance that no, there is nothing wrong with me. You will have a more stronger reason to go to doctors and get that confirmation. So I think doctors' role is going to now shift more therapeutic and confirmatory for validation, and it may become less of a burden for us on the screening aspect, which can be taken over by AI and such tools.
So as you said, there's a lot of technology which is used in flight. So it's like, we all know that it's autopilot which drives the flight.
Absolutely.
And even though a pilot is only responsible for landing and takeoff, nobody wants to sit in a flight without a pilot. So similarly, I think AI is something which is there, but as a technology, but it's always a doctor, a human behind will give that assurance for people, right? It's like, so we have this chatbots,
Yes.
right? But every time we ask, can you connect me to someone human?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that human connection is something which we all crave for. That's where, as a human, we connect with human.
Yes.
And then as we discuss, or maybe I think technology, let it be AI or, the medical devices which we do. So over a period of time, the integration of this technology is what is required. And then people are simply afraid, because there are so many people who have been thinking, okay, the job loss because of AI or other things. But we always believe, right, when there's an automation which happened, a robot can perform 10 people job with just one guy handling those things.
Yeah.
So that's when the IT boom came. So now after that, everybody wanted to become a coder or software engineer, right? So that's when factories were automated, and then you hardly see people going to factories, which used to employ tens of thousands of people, now we need a handful of people to operate. And then with that, we reduced our physical work. And then now we have mental work, and then that's been taken over by AIs.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to have startups which can come and solve new problems, right? So because IT industry came, so that's when it was able to generate that kind of job opportunity. And then I think students has to come in any field for that matter. And then health is something which is prime, right? So COVID has taught us that lesson.
Yes.
No matter how big economy you are,
Absolutely. Yeah.
One COVID can make everything stand still.
Lock down everything.
At least I never thought that I would see something in my life. Many of us never thought that, because we used to think of, North Korea, where, there's a lot of restrictions to go from one town to another town.
Yeah.
So I think that's something we experienced, where if I have to travel from Jayanagar to JP Nagar, I need some permission. Either I have to, I think you never had that problem since you were a doctor. So, but I say, civilian, we had lot of issues, right? So I think that's when I think you also picked up about the idea of tele.
Because we could not have that in person, and there was a need for technology because COVID has coming up with a lot of ENT symptoms. How do you remotely see when there is a lockdown? You have to look for technology. That's how it started.
So I think that's the way it is going to be, and then you have a product which can cater not only to poor country but for the developed countries as well.
Absolutely.
Right. So do you have any use cases from any of the developed countries?
In fact, see, developed countries have different kind of problems. Now, where there is healthcare which is a lot more regulated, like in the UK or in the Middle East or in the US, Canada, Australia, there are a lot of places where the government-run centers are larger than the private centers, and people pay heavily for insurances. So they are directed to follow a certain pathway, which sometimes is not always ideal, because many ENT problems, people say that to get a specialist appointment, I have to wait for 3.5 months or 4 months, sometimes 6 months. And that kind of waiting, by that time the disease may or may not be there, or maybe significantly worsened. So that causes a lot of fear in people, because they get to see a general practitioner, and general practitioner will decide whether they need to see a specialist. But that whole process can take a long time. And anytime there is a disease that somebody suffers with, the biggest concern is this going to become something disabling, something permanent, something dangerous? Am I taking too long to act on it? And that is where technology like the one that we have developed can help them get that early direction of care. And that is where we are having many people from the US, many people from UK, who use the device and are just wanting to get a quick understanding of whether this is something to worry about, or shall I wait for my specialist appointment after 2-3 months? Is there something I can do in between, or do I need to travel to India and get this taken care of? We are open to that also. And then for us, if we are just seeing on a video call, we can't make out anything. But if we have the endoscopy videos, images, we can give a much more better direction and diagnosis. So though we never decided or thought that this device would have a space in developed world, we see this use case scenario because of their healthcare infrastructure and systems.
Good. So since we are almost reaching an airport, so what I would conclude is you have created a device made in India, and then it's for the world.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's something which makes us really proud, being an Indian Atmanirbhar, and a lot of initiatives the government is also trying to push. And but I would actually believe at an individual level, we all have to take responsible and be accountable for certain things.
Yes.
And you took this initiative and fairly successful, right? And I really wish a lot of success. And then we hope more and more people come and innovate and create products that's for the world.
Yeah.
And then wish you very best.
Thank you. And it will not be possible without people like yourself funding and supporting and providing the ecosystem. So I think innovation is a teamwork, and fundraising and financial support and that financial management is also a very important part. Wealth is an important part for any organization. So it's great that you and your organization Intra are bringing this up, and I'm happy to be a part of this family.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Jagdish.
Right, thanks.
Nice talking to you.